Hey, how's it going? This is James P. White from 95.7 Cruise FM, The Locker Room. Welcome to the Jedi Jimmy podcast. This is episode 21. Holy... Okay, Obi-Wan Kenobi, episode 3. It's actually called part 3. Who knew? So, after the fall of the Jedi, the Republic... after the fall of the Jedi and the Republic, Darth Vader built his own castle. And not castle. It was on Mustafar, which was the planet in which Obi-Wan actually kind of cut his arms and legs off and he burnt it almost to death. That's where his castle is. So we actually see his castle. It's actually so cool. So they show that at the beginning, and Darth Vader coming out of the Bacta tank. But now we jump to Mapuzo, in which Obi-Wan took the transport with Leia. And I've never heard of Mapuzo before. It's actually a mining planet in which they mine this. It's actually a very explosive element. So, one thing that I saw a lot of in Obi-Wan was actually there's a lot of competition between the Inquisitors, in which who can have the most power. That's why the Sith always has the rule of two. You have the Master and the Apprentice. Even though these guys are assassins for the Sith, they still fight for more power. You know, Reva, she wants to be the Grand Inquisitor. She's trying to impress Darth Vader, and so is Fifth Brother. So there's a lot of competition there. But the funny thing is through most of the Obi-Wan series so far, Obi-Wan didn't use his lightsaber at all. He just used a blaster pistol because he didn't want to make it obvious that he was a Jedi. He always carried it, but he never used it. Now, the only time he ever used his lightsaber in the series so far is when he fights Darth Vader, and that's going to be in a minute. So I figured out a reason why Obi-Wan can't commune with Qui-Gon. See, in the light side of the Force, you have to be calm. You have to be in the right state of mind. Now, there's only been one other person that's been able to commune with people that are in the Force, like that their energy is in the Force, and that's Yoda. He tried to teach Obi-Wan how to commune in the Force, but he's too uncertain. There's so much going on. He's second guessing his opinion, his previous decisions when dealing with Vader or Anakin, but he's also afraid. He's afraid of failing again. His job is to protect Luke and, in a lot of ways, protect Leia. And he's afraid of failing again. Remember, fear is the path to the dark side. And the fear is causing a shroud of the dark side over him, so he can't commune with Qui-Gon because he's focused on so many other things. You have to be centered in the Force. Now, some people, actually I mean Lachlan Cross, have said that Obi-Wan looks a bit like a wimp in the first couple episodes. His life is uncertain. He saw everybody he knows and cares about die or disappear. He is afraid of failing again. I've said this before. And it's messed with his mind. He needs to center himself in the Force. Now, in the tunnel on Mapuzo, Obi-Wan found writings on the wall. So on Mapuzo, he was trying to get Leia off there to get her back to Alderaan. So he was in the tunnel and he saw writings by Quinlan Vos. A lot of you people probably don't know who Quinlan Vos was. He was a Jedi Knight that actually was asked by the Jedi Council to assassinate Count Dooku. And that's not the way of the light side. So he had conflict with it, and he turned to the dark side for a short period of time. But then he realized that it was a situation, and he was brought back to the Jedi Order. But at this time, during these episodes, which is 10 years later from where he actually tried to assassinate Count Dooku, he is now part of the Resistance. His sole purpose right now is he is trying to make sure that younglings aren't caught by the Empire. So he's part of the underground, trying to get the younglings or people that are kids that are Force sensitive, keep them away from the Sith so they don't also become Inquisitors. Now, at the point, one thing I really loved about this episode was on the wall, Quinlan Vos actually wrote a quote. I'm going to mention it at the end, but I really love it. Only when your eyes are closed can you truly see. Think about that. Only when your eyes are closed can you truly see. Now, Vader came to Mapuzo to chase Obi-Wan down. He wants Obi-Wan something fierce. It is a pretty badass entrance that Vader does. And the thing is he killed whoever he wanted. He did Force chokes, threw people against buildings. It was badass and bad at the same time. It was a very dark scene. But that is the Force. That is the dark side. Now, with Darth Vader appearing, he is still voiced by none other than James Earl Jones. In 1977, he was the first one to voice Darth Vader. In every project dealing with Star Wars and Darth Vader, he was the voice. Such a cool voice. I love him. So awesome. Now, during the fight, that he actually had a lightsaber duel with Obi-Wan. He met him in the dunes with all the piles of the mineral that they're mining. And he wasn't trying to kill Obi-Wan. He actually started the ground on fire and was burning him. He wanted him to suffer like he did when he was burned on Mustafar, when there was a spark that started him on fire after Obi-Wan cut his arms and legs off because he had higher ground. Remember, the path to the dark side, there is a final step. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. So you turn to the dark side, you cause suffering. That is where Vader is at. So towards the end of the episode, Reva actually captured Leia again. And I have a prediction that's going to happen in the next few episodes. We're going to get Leia back. Just wait. So, as I said with this podcast, I'm going to give an explanation of lightsaber types and then combat style. First of all, we see a lot of the lightsaber type. Darth Vader, his lightsaber is very similar to Anakin's lightsaber, which in A New Hope, Obi-Wan gives to Luke. It's very similar, but there's a lot of black components to it. But Obi-Wan's lightsaber is the exact same lightsaber that he had from Revenge of the Sith, and it's a very similar style that Luke has in Return of the Jedi. Now, dealing with the lightsaber combat. With the lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, definitely saw Vader using Form 5 with his Jin-So, but he also mixed in a bit of Shin-So or Shan, but he did it like one-handed. Obi-Wan's defense was very weak because he's very rusty and he's kind of out of focus. He uses Form 3. I'm not going to deal with that this episode, but Form 5, he did it one-handed. It was amazing. Towards the end of the episode, I will actually show you some of the techniques he used and dealing with Form 5. Now, at the end of the... Now, predictions going forward. I think that Quinlan Vos of the Jedi Order, like I talked about him earlier with the quote, he is still around helping Jedi younglings escape. But I think he might actually help Ben track down Leia because he is a well-known tracker. So he's going to show up. The actual character is going to show up in the movie, or in the episode, in the series. Can you imagine that? 2 Jedi? Wow, what can go wrong? And I also believe that Ben, by the end of this series, will actually be able to calm himself, center himself in the Force, and commune with Qui-Gon Jinn, as Yoda showed him after Revenge of the Sith. Now, I need to explain some of my previous mistakes dealing with this series. One, last podcast, the opening scene when they showed all the younglings kind of escaping from the temple, I thought that I was mistaken, but I know for a fact that Reva was actually one of the Jedi, the younglings that escaped. She was homeless for a while, but the Grand Inquisitor actually did say that she was homeless, living in the gutters, but she had skills of the Jedi. She turned to the dark side after escaping from the Jedi Temple. I believe that with everything that's within me. Another prediction I had from last week was that Ben and Darth Vader would fight. It did happen, but it was a lot earlier than I thought it was going to be. And a mistake I made last episode as well was the second female Inquisitor. that showed up in episode 2, she is actually called fourth sister. So Reva is third sister, she's fourth sister. And additional info. In the last episode, I didn't know this until I read it this week, but the young person that actually tried to sell Obi-Wan spice, so basically drugs, on the planet was Ewan McGregor's daughter. That's actually pretty cool information. Now, every episode, I also do my favorite quotes. Episode 1, Jedi cannot help what they are. Their compassion leaves a trail. The Jedi Code is an itch. He can't help it. That was a quote from Grand Inquisitor. Episode 2, you think the less you say, the less you give away, but really the opposite is true. That was from Leia as a kid. Episode 3, Quinlan Voss. He wrote it on the wall. When your eyes are closed, only when your eyes are closed can you truly see. So cool. Now, coming up in about 2 seconds, I'm actually going to be demonstrating some of the lightsaber techniques that was used by Vader using Form 5. Here you go. Now, thank you so much for joining me with this episode. I look forward to seeing you next week with the next episode of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. If you see any mistakes I have made, please comment and let me know. And I need to thank my sponsors. I need to throw a huge thank you to Dean Blundell on Dean Blundell Network on deanblundell.com, as well as Fire at Will Productions, which is my good friend Army Chris, and it's his setup I'm using. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next week.